Okay, we're going to talk about long division, the standard algorithm for doing long division. And we have a little acronym that we use whenever we're doing long division. And it's DOES McDonald's sell cheeseburgers. And the DOES stands for divide, the M stands for multiply, the S stands for subtract, C stands for compare, and B stands for bring down. And we'll go ahead and go through the steps and I'll show you what each one of those means. So we're going to go ahead and work out the problem. 624 divided by 8. Okay, on 624 divided by 8, the first step that we're going to use, and whenever we do one of the steps, we're going to put a mark by it, is divide. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and divide the first digit in the dividend, okay, by the divisor. And how we do that is we look at our multiplication chart over here. Okay, and we find our divisor on our multiplication chart in the factors right here, and we follow it over. Okay, I'm looking for 6, but I cannot go over 6. 8 is over 6, so I have to go back to right here. So that means that if I try to divide 6 by 8, it will go into it 0 times. So I'm going to put a 0 right here. Okay, the next step that I do is I multiply. Okay. And when I multiply, I'm going to use the answer from my last step and multiply that by my divisor. And the answer for my last step was 0, and my divisor is 8, and 8 times 0 is 0. Okay. My next step is subtract. Subtract. I draw a line right there. I'm using the answer from my last step, which was 0. And I'm going to subtract that from the first digit in my dividend, which is 6. Okay. When I subtract that, I get 6. My next step is to compare. Compare. And what I'm comparing is the answer from my last step with the divisor. Okay, and the answer from my last step should be less than my divisor. If it is, I'm good. I can go on to my next step, which is bring down. So I'm going to bring the 2 down. Okay, and I start all over again. Okay, we're always using the answer from our last step in the next step that we do. So the answer of my last step was 62. So I'm going to divide 62 by my divisor, which is 8. So I go to my multiplication chart right here, and I follow it over, and I'm looking for 62, but I can't go over 62. 64 is close, but it's larger than 62, so I have to go back to 56, and that's 7 times. 7 times. So 8 goes into 62 7 times. Now write my answer up here. Every time I divide, my answer is going to go up top. Okay, that's where the quotient's at. Okay, my next step is to multiply. I'm going to use the answer from my last step, which was 7. I'm going to multiply it with the divisor, which is 8. And 7 times 8 is 56. And as you notice, when I multiply, I'm getting the same answer I've seen on my multiplication chart over here. So my next step is to subtract. Use the answer from my last step. I'm going to subtract that from the dividend right here. Okay, 6 from 2, I need to regroup. That's going to be a 5. That becomes a 12. 6 from 12 is 6. And 5 from 5 is 0. Okay, next step is compare. I'm comparing the answer from my last step with the divisor, and 6 is less than 8, so I'm good. I can go on to the next step, which is bring down. I'm going to bring down the 4. Bring the 4 right down there. And I start all over again. Remember, we're always using the answer from our last step. The answer from my last step is 64, and I'm going to divide that by 8, which is my divisor. I go to my multiplication chart. I follow it over. I'm looking for 64. And I find 64 this time exactly, and that's 8. So 8 goes into 64 8 times. My next step is to multiply. Okay, I'm going to multiply the answer from my last step, which is 8, by the divisor, which is 8. And 8 times 8 is 64. My next step is subtract. I'm going to subtract the answer from my last step. I get 0. My next step is to compare, and 0 is less than my divisor, so I'm good. I'm going to the next step, which is bring down. I don't have anything else to bring down right here, so that means we're done. We're done with the problem. So that tells us that 624 divided by 8 is 78. But we still have one last step that we're going to do, is we're going to check. We're going to check to see if our answer is correct. And we check a division problem by multiplying the quotient by the divisor. So I'm going to multiply 78 times 8. Okay, multiply up first. 8 times 8 is 64. Okay, then I multiply across. 7 times 8 is 56. Plus 6 is 62. And my product right here should match my dividend right here. And if it does, I've done it correct. And so we got the correct answer. Okay, if you notice on these right here that this is a fact family. This is basically a fact family right here. That's saying that 8 times 78 is 624. 624 divided by 8 is 78. And 624 divided by 78 would be 8. And that's just all fact families, all stuff that we're kind of building on that we learned from 3rd grade.